Hello guys, I am Vitold and this video about the newest Triumph Tiger 1200 is for those who don't own the bike yet, but consider it mostly. If you already own it, please move to the other video where I present everything that's the best about it and all the reasons that could be there to buy it. Nobody wants you upset, so this one here is for those that won't get upset when I mention certain flaws and areas that could be improved in the Tiger. It is a fantastic bike that I personally would be very happy to own and use as a daily motorcycle. It doesn't actually have any flaws that would be deal breakers for me personally, and that's why there is this video, because there are certain things that I think might be deal breakers for some of you guys. And I've gathered all my observations on those things that might not possibly suit some riders so that you are informed as much as possible before you make your final decision or before your final test ride and put the cash out on the table. Some of you will say to specific points that this won't apply to you or that those things actually suit you, which is perfectly fine. And I've got to cover all the angles here so that it's the most helpful to all of you guys. This really is a great bike, and I don't say it if I don't think so. Here I do think so, so I'm rather convinced that this Tiger 1200 will suit really many of you guys. But some things are stupid. Stupid as hell, in fact. And I'll get to them right now. So let's start with the first point, which is the front brake. It is a strong brake with a comfortable lever, but it's going to take a lot of time for many of us to get used to it. Even if you do get used to it, you will always have to be careful using it, or otherwise this happens. Once you start pressing it, initially of course nothing happens, as there's almost no resistance in the lever's motion and the lever's movement, and that's normal. What is not normal is that once you reach the first feel of resistance and pull the lever just a bit more, the brake reacts like the hottest chick in the club slapped in the... Anyway, it punches you in the face hard. What that means in real life on a motorcycle is that it very suddenly switches from "oh, I am so cool and so relaxed" to "you're out, bro," and it engages the brake very hard. Now, this is not that big of a deal on its own, but what this causes is that the front suspension immediately compresses and you end up with the front end diving a lot. And that's generally not nice, as you lose stability and so on, and you're like, okay, what the hell is going on here? So this is the first thing. And yet with time you will get better in controlling the front brake like I did, but it wasn't the smoothest operation, and it's there. Probably an easy way of resolving by Triumph in the future, maybe in a rework next 2023 year. The second thing that may cause a hard decision on your end of skipping it is about how nimble the bike feels. And there are two views to present here. The first is that it's not bad and an overall a well-balanced motorcycle in this area. Yes, it's fairly easy to control at any speed, including very low speeds, and it follows your command. Just a tiny push from your side is needed. So it's good within the class. The second view is that it's not the best. So there are motorcycles in the category that are better than the Triumph Tiger 1200 in my opinion, and are more encouraging to play with them in terms of handling all the way from the lowest speeds. That's the big GS, for example, and even Moto Guzzi V85 TT, which actually is a class lower, in fact. And that's the conclusion. So if you're aiming for the lightest feeling bike in the category, it's not this one, even though it's still good and among the top in the category. Would I care about it? Yes, I would. Would it stop me from choosing the Tiger 1200 over the GS? Probably not, depending on what other things matter, and that will be for you guys to consider after reaching the end of the list and checking all the reasons for you also to choose the Tiger 1200. It's speed, and after you have started to lean left and right, it is becoming actually more encouraging and makes you feel more and more confident on it. So alright, now there is time for the third point that actually can be fixed. That's a good one. It's the front windshield, which has a very likely the best adjustment system idea that you can operate with one hand while riding, and even though it's not perfect, since it may get stuck and you'll have to push or pull it harder and you might risk cracking those plastic bars or bending something else, but it usually works and you feel a lot of difference between the extreme positions. Now if you want to have smooth air around your helmet, you lower it fully and you're getting it. Then if you want to cover yourself from wind and go for a longer trip, reaching higher speeds, you lift the windshield and you get hit in the helmet with a hell of a lot of turbulences. And that's where the issue is. So in the taller positions, it generates so-called buffeting. So irregular air hitting your helmet and shaking your head in all directions. I was having road dirt thrown into my helmet from the bottom. Yes, that's right. So through the neck hole. There was way too much air entering the inside of my helmet and all the nasty stuff along with it. I cried a few times in the end. In my full review of the Tiger, I said that at least once I did, but then I rode the bike a little bit more and it kept happening more and more. So there was definitely more crying for me with all sorts of things ending up in my eyes. This is not a well-designed windshield and that's a pity. But there's an easy fix that will of course cost you, as it's either adding a deflector, which I don't really like the idea of generally, or replacing the whole windshield with an aftermarket one and solving the issue once and for all. There you have it, a problem and a solution. So we move on to the point that is actually stupid to me. The fourth point is that you cannot have the blind spot monitoring and warning system with a rear radar in any other version of the Triumph Tiger 1200 than the Explorer. So with the larger fuel tank at the same time. The heaviest of them all also at the same time. And I don't see the connection between a fuel tank and a rear radar and different mirrors with warning lights in them. It just doesn't really match. What does the fuel tank have to do with it? This is weird logic, I think, for Triumph to assume that the riders will want the larger fuel tank and assume that this automatically makes the bike the flagship in the family. So the only one which could have the best or the fanciest options. And I would prefer to have a 20-liter fuel tank instead of a 30-liter one for the weight and size reasons. I simply would benefit from it less than I do from a lighter bike, and I really don't get this one and hope that Triumph will offer this solution in the same kind of setup as Ducati does in their Multistrada V4. So basically in any option, if only you are choosing to pay for it. If you want to have the rear radar and enhanced safety and you don't want the Explorer, which is also the most expensive at the same time, I think we should have a right to go for it. So no, I don't approve of this solution. In the fifth point, there is my very subjective opinion on the design. Yes, some like blondes, some like brunettes, some like them pretty, some like them ugly. Yes, of course, I feel that I like them pretty, and in this case of the Tiger 1200, I think that it could have been looking maybe a little bit more exciting. I like the sideline, but there's nothing that would excite me really about it. This blue color wasn't really helping, I think, and I might even say that I enjoyed the previous, the more muscular design even more than this current one. It's fine and light looking to me, it's sleek, but the front face looks like, I think, a lot like some bird, and I'm not a complete fan of it. I would give it some excitement and likely some more muscle, but that's just a short feedback having seen and ridden the previous generation as well. Please guys, let me know what you think about the design of the new one. Do you like it more or do you like the previous one more? Of course, the new one, we know it's new, so it's kind of more exciting on its own just because of that, but just really looking at the shape, at the details, at the duck face. Did I say duck face? Anyway, I feel that I may not be actually alone in being just a little tiny percentage disappointed with the look. I would certainly live with it and I wouldn't hide it, but rather still proudly present it in my garage. But I feel it could have been a little bit more exciting, especially in this class of motorcycles where you can really do whatever you want, in fact. Please let me know, guys, what you think. The sixth point is less subjective, and I feel that it may be a deal breaker and at the same time a big win for another motorcycle. Also from Triumph, surprise! It's that the current Triumph Tiger 900 and also 850, they both look very similar to the bigger and more expensive 1200, so this one. When I came to pick up the 1200 waiting for me, it was parked right next to a 900, and I haven't seen the 1200 before, and I have seen the 900 only once before. In the pictures, they present a similar vibe, but seem quite different. But once I saw them one next to each other, kind of from the side and a little bit from the rear, I really wouldn't be able to tell which one is which in the beginning, and even probably now I wouldn't be able just taking a quick glimpse. Both in terms of the size and in terms of design, they seem so similar that I feel that it may impact negatively the 1200 sales numbers, as the difference in price is there and may make many of us think that if they're so similar, why to pay more for just a bit more here and a bit more there? It's like with the current car manufacturers like Mercedes, BMW, Audi or Volvo. Their sedans look so similar that many people aren't able to tell the difference, and myself as a car fan, I sometimes struggle from some angles telling which one it is exactly. It's good for the cheaper models, but it's not so good image-wise for the more expensive ones that people pay more for, or they are supposed to pay more for. If you pay more, you generally want others to know that you've got the higher, the better, the more exotic model. And I know it's not popular to admit that, but that's what it's like. And you may get a house somewhere, but you may pay 5 times more and have it in Beverly Hills. And people still do it. It's still the same house, but you know, it's in Beverly Hills. So here's my issue with the 1200. I feel that for some of us it may look way too similar to the smaller and cheaper 900. I'm also curious if that matters to you, but I think I'm not the only one. Let's head to the 7th point, and this may just as well not be any sort of an issue as it's about the sound. Nowadays, most new motorcycles are trying to comply or even complying fully with the new emission standards and have their exhaust systems make sound soulless and very quiet. It's not entirely the case here, as Triumph Tiger 1200 is having a 3-cylinder engine that sounds really nicely, reaching higher RPM specifically then. It's a bit of an opposite of a V-shaped engine that usually sound nicer at lower revs and lose their powerful note around the red line. Here, it's the other way around. Now, I think that since the bike is very quiet at idle and lower RPM, it may make sense to equip it with an aftermarket exhaust that wouldn't be too loud, but would be bringing some of that juice back. Just make it sound deeper and more serious, as right now it's just maybe not exactly matching that great performance of this Tiger in its position as a possible motorcycle king among others in the class. If you don't want to push the Tiger all the time just to enjoy its sound at higher RPM, you will probably need that aftermarket exhaust. Now the 8th point that shows an either bad design of Triumph or still a bad design that made me not find a solution to it in the settings, and I'm talking about the front LED light. It is absolutely all fine with it, but once you want to flash, so quickly turn the high beam on and have the bike return to normal low beam operation, just on and off, there's no lever that in other motorcycles otherwise has 3 positions, 2 permanent and 1 temporary. In the initial position, you've got the low beam mode engaged. Then if you push the lever away from you, it stays in that position further away, and that's how the low beam is engaged fully, permanently. Or if you pull the lever, it now temporarily, or actually as long as you hold it or you keep it pulled with your finger, it turns the high beam on. So you can use the flash by pulling it very quickly and releasing it. Here's the same lever that manufacturers usually use, but only 1 permanent position and 1 temporary, and that completely makes the operation different. If you keep it as it is, you've got the low beam, of course. You cannot push it away, but you can pull it, and it gets back to the previous position. So it's the temporary position in which otherwise you would be just flashing. The difference in operation is that it's not flashing as the high beam stays engaged. It stays engaged until you pull the lever again. So pulling it and releasing it switches between the low beam and high beam and vice versa. If that's the design, I don't feel it's quite right. If my Tiger 1200 was unique for some reason, also please verify it with other Triumphs, as maybe there's a hidden setting that can bring back the flash function and only I couldn't find it. I don't think so. It was bothering me a little bit and it raises some questions on my side. And I feel that it's better that you know about it up front and don't end up surprised or in an uncomfortable situation on the road for whatever reason if you do something that you don't think should be happening. The 9th point on the list of why you might have to avoid the Triumph Tiger 1200 consists of 2 subpoints. One being that the base, the cheapest version called simply GT, lacks some basic equipment like cruise control, quick shifter, heated grips and a cornering LED light. It's still LED but it's not cornering. I feel that it's not a tragedy and generally a good practice to give choice instead of giving everything and charging a crazy base price for it. But here we reach the second sub point, which is the base price. You can get a new Ford Fiesta for it with some extra equipment here. So I've got mixed emotions about it a little bit. On the other hand, it has just become a category standard to charge this much for motorcycles, and if you want to compare, it seems normal, unfortunately now. Still, it looks like motorcycles are becoming a luxury now in this category especially, and it can be a concern for some, and may force some of us to either look at used motorcycles or choose cheaper options. So be aware that if you don't have an unlimited budget, getting a Triumph Tiger 1200 may require some financial sacrifices. And again, if you want that radar, which I would want myself, you've got to pay 20% more, around 20% more, and get the whole Explorer version. The 10th point will be a controversy, but I guarantee you that it's going to be valid. And I feel that Triumph Tiger 1200 and BMW R1250 GS are going head to head in the category now. Both have drive shafts, which in my eyes make them a very close match. Both have plenty of torque, and well, they are in the same class. But it's the GS that's usually called the benchmark, or even always called the benchmark, and everyone will compare and already compares the Tiger to the GS. The thing is that because of all this, the Tiger is considered an underdog. And I'll tell you, with my own comparison of those bikes, what I think about them both, and compare them very closely, but I feel that there may always be the thought of the BMW being the leader, or the BMW being more well known. And it may bother some people. Somehow I believe that it's not that much of a case with Italian Ducati, for example, or KTM, but there may, if I'm wrong about Triumph here. It may be the case, I think. It's not about which one is better, but somehow about the image. So please take that into account and add a sticker on the tag saying GS killer, or try to forget I ever said it and just head to the video about what's so great about this newest Tiger 1200. There are some areas in which the BMW has much less to offer, and there you have it. In some ways, this may be the best bike in the class. And that's it from me, guys. I really like this bike myself and hope that you feel lighter after the video and actually even more convinced that you like it as well. And that in fact it's something else than the super popular GS. It's something fresh, it's something new, something of, well, really good quality. But more on that in the other video. See you there. Bye.